My name is Eric Williams, and I've been teaching English at Westbrook High for 12 years. 37 years old, divorced, no kids, just me, my lesson plans, and the quiet satisfaction of watching teenagers slowly figure out how to construct a coherent paragraph. I'm not the kind of guy who looks for drama. Drama finds me, usually in the form of parents who think their child deserves an A because they tried really hard, or administrators who schedule mandatory meetings during my prep period. Mr. Williams, Patricia waved me over. This is Mindy Hart. She's joining us for 11th grade English. Mindy, this is Eric. He's been here forever, so if you need anything, he's your guy. Mindy turned to me, and I swear to God, she dimpled. Actually dimpled, like a cartoon character. Oh my gosh, hi. She grabbed my hand with both of hers and shook it like we were old friends reuniting at an airport. I'm so excited to be here. Everyone's been so welcoming already. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. Sure, I said, pulling my hand back. Welcome. That should have been the end of it. A new colleague, young and eager, maybe a little too eager, but harmless. Except it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something I still can't fully explain without feeling my jaw tighten. For the first 6 weeks, Mindy played the role of the eager rookie flawlessly. She brought in donuts on Fridays. She volunteered to photocopy handouts. She called everyone sir and ma'am and asked for advice on lesson planning like we were gurus dispensing ancient wisdom. The older teachers, Patricia, our department chair, and Ray, who'd been teaching since before I was born, absolutely adore her. She's such a breath of fresh air, Patricia said one afternoon, watching Mindy bounce down the hallway. Remember when we used to have young teachers who actually wanted to learn? I remembered when we had young teachers who didn't treat the faculty lounge like a casting call for a reality show, but I kept that to myself. Then Mindy got tenure track approval, and the mask started slipping. It happened on a Tuesday. Patricia came to my classroom during 5th period study hall, her expression tight. Eric, I need someone to compile the grade reports for all 11th grade sections by tonight. The district wants them by 5 p.m. tomorrow, but I want to review them first. Mindy's new, I said. Maybe she should. Actually, I was thinking you could ask her. It's a good way for her to learn our system. I found Mindy in the faculty workroom, earbuds in, humming along to something that sounded vaguely like a Taylor Swift deep cut. Her desk was immaculate, a pink planner, a matching mug, a small succulent in a pot that said asterisk, grow, girl, asterisk, and she was clearly counting down the minutes until she could leave. Mindy, I said, tapping the desk. Patricia needs grade reports from all 11th grade sections by tonight. She wants you to compile them. She pulled out one earbud. What? The grade reports, all sections, tonight. Her face shifted through about 4 expressions in 2 seconds, confusion, annoyance, calculation, and then this weird, performative innocence thing that I would come to recognize as her default setting. Eric, she said, tilting her head, I just started. I don't even know the system yet. You log in, you export the grade files, you combine them into one document. It's not complicated. But I have plans tonight. She pouted, actual pout, her bottom lip pushed out like a child being told she couldn't have dessert before dinner. I was going to meet up with some friends. Can't you do it? Patricia specifically asked for you. Patricia doesn't know what she's asking. She leaned forward and lowered her voice. You've been here for, like, forever. You could do this in 10 minutes. It would take me hours. Then you'd better get started. I turned and walked back to my classroom. Behind me, I heard her mutter something that sounded like unbelievable, but I chose to ignore it. That night, I was at home grading papers when my phone buzzed. It was Ray. Ray, did you make Mindy do the grade reports? Eric, Patricia asked her to. Not me. Ray, she's telling people you dumped your work on her. She's got a whole thing going on social media. I opened the link Ray sent me. It was Mindy's Instagram. Public, because of course it was. And there she was, a selfie of her slumped over a desk, surrounded by papers, with the caption. Asterisk, when the senior teachers don't want to do their own work, guess who gets to stay late and clean up the mess? Me. But it's okay. I'm just grateful to be here. Right? Asterisk. The comments were already flooding in. Asterisk, that's so unfair. Typical older teachers, making the newbie do everything. You're stronger than me. I would have walked out. Asterisk. I stared at the screen for a full minute. My first instinct was to screenshot it, send it to Patricia, and demand an explanation. My second instinct was to call Mindy and ask her, very calmly, what exactly she thought she was doing. I did neither. Instead, I typed out a message to Ray. Asterisk, she was told to do it by Patricia. I made that clear. Asterisk. Ray's response came back. Asterisk, she's saying you used Patricia's name to pressure her. Asterisk. I closed the phone and set it on the table. Something cold settled in my stomach. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was intentional. She was building a narrative, and I was the villain in it. That night, I didn't sleep well, and I made a mental note. Stay away from Mindy Hart. But it's hard to stay away from someone who operates like she's the main character in a movie and everyone else is just cast to orbit around her. The first major incident came during homecoming week. Every year, the English department handles game day logistics, water bottles and boxed lunches for the teachers and student volunteers. It's a boring, thankless job, but someone has to do it. This year, Patricia put Mindy in charge of the food order. She's young and energetic, Patricia explained, and she offered. I should have been suspicious right there. Mindy Hart offering to do something that involved no public recognition? Unlikely. Game day arrives. The football field is swarming with students, parents, alumni, and the kind of community energy that makes suburban high schools feel like small towns. The teachers' tent is set up near the bleachers, and we're all expecting the usual. Cheap sandwiches, bags of chips, maybe a couple of granola bars if we're lucky. Instead, Mindy shows up an hour before kickoff, wheeling a cart stacked with sushi platters and bubble tea. Whoa, Ray said, watching her set everything up. Did the budget suddenly increase? Mindy beamed. I talked to the principal, and he said we could spice things up a little. The principal said that? Well, I told him I wanted to make it special, and he said to keep it within budget, so she waved her hand. It's fine. Everyone enjoy. I didn't touch the sushi. Something fell off. The teachers around me, though, were diving in like they'd just been rescued from a desert island. This is amazing, one of them said. Mindy, you're a lifesaver. Just trying to help. She gave a little finger wave. That's what I'm here for. The reckoning came 3 days later. Patricia pulled me into her office and closed the door. Her face was white. Did you eat any of the sushi? No, I said. I had a feeling. A feeling? Mindy didn't clear the order with anyone. The total was over $400. Patricia's jaw tightened. The principal is refusing to reimburse her. He says she didn't get approval. Did she tell you she got approval? She told everyone. She made it sound like a done deal. Patricia rubbed her temples. Now she's asking the teachers to chip in and cover the cost. I almost laughed. And how's that going? Not great. Some of the newer teachers, they feel pressured. They ate the food, so they feel like they have to pay. She looked at me. Did she approach you? Not yet. She will. Patricia was right. The next morning, Mindy sent out a department-wide email, complete with a spreadsheet listing everyone's share. Asterisk, hi everyone, as you know, we had such a fun homecoming experience with the sushi and bubble tea. Unfortunately, there was a small miscommunication about the budget, and I need to collect the funds from those who participated. Please Venmo me by Friday. Thanks, girlies, you're the best. XX Mindy asterisk. I didn't respond. Neither did Ray. Neither did Patricia, or Jen, or any of the other senior teachers. But the newer staff, the ones who hadn't been around long enough to recognize a con when they saw one, started sending money. When I finally ran into Mindy at the coffee machine, she turned to me with her sweetest smile. Hey, Eric, did you get my email? I got it. She batted her eyelashes. So, are you going to Venmo me? No. Her smile flickered. Excuse me? I didn't eat the sushi. I didn't ask you to buy it. I'm not paying. She stared at me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. But you're part of the department. I'm part of the department. You're part of the department. We're coworkers. We're not a family, and I'm not splitting the cost of your unauthorized shopping spree. Her expression shifted. Gone was the sweet, confused girl. In its place was something sharper, harder. Fine, she said. Be petty. I didn't expect anything less from someone who makes new teachers do their grading. And there it was, the first open shot. I walked away without responding, but I felt her glare on my back until I rounded the corner. The real escalation came a week later when Mindy was assigned to proctor a major exam for the junior class. It's a tense job. 2 hours of watching teenagers stare at a page, trying not to fall asleep or have a nervous breakdown. But most teachers handle it professionally. Mindy, of course, decided to make it about herself. I heard about it from Jen, who was proctoring in the room next door. Eric, she said, pulling me aside before lunch, you're not going to believe what happened. What happened? Jen held up her phone. On the screen was a photo of Mindy, surrounded by a group of male students, all of whom looked about 6 feet tall and extremely uncomfortable. She was holding a pink whistle and pouting, actual pout, again, while the boys stared at their shoes. The caption read, asterisk, the principal gave me the tough class today because he believes in me. Look at my bad boys. They're so big and scary, but deep down, they're just teddy bears. Or maybe I'm just the only one who can handle them. Asterisk. Please tell me that's photoshopped, I said. It's not. She posted it during the exam. During the exam. That's a violation, I said slowly. You can't use your phone during proctoring. I know, but that's not the worst part. Of course it isn't. She got them to pose. While they were supposed to be testing, she made a whole production of it. I looked at the photo again. The boys didn't look like teddy bears. They looked like hostages. The fallout was immediate. One of the parents saw the post and came straight to the school. By third period, there was a meeting in the principal's office, and by fourth period, Mindy had been suspended pending investigation. When the dust settled 2 weeks later, she was transferred to a non-teaching position, student life coordinator, which meant she was basically an assistant. No classroom, no students, just busy work. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought she'd learned her lesson. I was wrong. With a change in job came an unexpected power grab. Mindy's new role put her in the same orbit as a young, newly hired teacher named Tom, fresh out of college, green as they come. He taught physical education and had the kind of earnest, gentle demeanor that made him easy to push around. Mindy took one look at him and decided he was her next project. The first week, I saw her at his desk, leaning over his shoulder as he struggled with a spreadsheet. Tommy, she cooed, you're so smart. You know how to use all those formulas and stuff? I'm just a girl. I don't get any of this. Tom, blushing furiously, showed her how to input data, merge cells, and add formulas. She thanked him with a hand on his arm. Thank you so much. I owe you one. She never paid him back. In fact, by week 2, Tom was handling all of her scheduling and data entry. She'd even convinced him to start picking up coffee for her every morning since he was going to the cafe anyway. One morning, I overheard him tell her she owed him $27 for the last 3 drinks. She blinked at him, but you're so sweet to do it. I thought you were being nice. I am being nice, but I also need the money. Tommy. She patted his cheek like he was a Labrador. Your smile is payment enough. I watched his face fall, saw him open his mouth, then close it. Then I saw him walk back to his desk, shoulders hunched. And just like that, I went from observant bystander to active participant. It wasn't just Tom, it was the students too. I started noticing the same pattern. Mindy asking kids to run errands, fetch her lunch, stay after to help her organize. Always with that same smile, that same, you're so amazing tone. And the kids, good kids, polite kids, never said no, they didn't know how. But then one of them, a kid named Marcus, came to me after class with a crumpled receipt. Mr. Williams, he said, I got this from Ms. Hart. She said she'd pay me back. That was 2 weeks ago. How much? $32. I took the receipt and folded it into my pocket. I'll talk to her. No, don't. Marcus's eyes went wide. I don't want to cause trouble. She'll be mad. She's not your teacher anymore, Marcus. She's a coordinator. And if she's making students pay for her things, that's a problem. Marcus looked relieved and terrified at the same time. I didn't blame him. There's something uniquely intimidating about a teacher who uses their authority to manipulate, even in small ways. I didn't confront Mindy directly. I didn't have to. Ray and I have been talking and I've been taking notes. She had a pattern. She used people, tossed them aside, and then played the victim when they caught on. The innocent act was the shield. The poor me was the weapon, and she was very, very good at it. But she'd also started boasting. In the break room, over lunch, in front of the new hires, she was telling stories about how the principal couldn't function without her and how she was basically running the department. It was only a matter of time until someone pushed back. And because this was Mindy, that pushback came in the worst possible way. It was a Friday late. I was packing up to go home when the principal's secretary showed up at my door. Mr. Williams, Mr. Hartwell wants to see you in his office. Now. When I arrived, there was a folder on the desk. In it were printouts of emails. My emails, sent to the superintendent's office. The problem? I hadn't sent any emails to the superintendent's office. But the signature line said, Eric Williams, Department of English. Eric, the principal said slowly, I know you're a professional, but I know you wouldn't do this. But you need to know that this is circulating in the district. Someone's been sending complaints under your name. I felt the blood drain from my face. Can I see the emails? He slid them across the desk. They were petty, mean, personal, complaints about the principal's management, accusations of favoritism, even a line about his drinking problem, which was a complete lie. This isn't for me, I said. I know it's not, but I have to investigate it. I have to ask if there's anyone you've had a conflict with. I looked at him. You know exactly who. He sighed. I don't have proof. I'll get you proof. That's when I started paying attention to Mindy's schedule. It took me 3 days to realize she came in early on Tuesdays, another 3 to realize she always used the department computer, not her own laptop, because asterisk, it was easier to print. Asterisk, the department computer had access to my email account. The standard login was still set up from when I'd shown a substitute how to use it the year before. I walked into the workroom on a Tuesday morning and said, Hey, Mindy, have you seen that portfolio from last year? Her eyes darted to the screen. She was in my inbox. What portfolio? It's in my email. Never mind, I'll check on my phone. She shut the browser window so fast I could hear the click. Okay, she said. Don't worry about it. I stood in the door for just a second too long. Then I turned and walked straight to the principal's office. I told him everything. I'll check the logs, he said. If it's her, she's done. Does she know she's being investigated? No, and she won't until we have confirmation. I nodded and left. 2 days later, Mindy was escorted off campus. The email stopped. But the story didn't end there. Because Mindy, in her final act before she left something behind. On the department's shared drive, in a folder only I had access to, was a video that I don't know how she filmed it or when, but it was less than 5 seconds. She stood in front of the camera with her head tilted, her voice sweet as syrup. This is for you, Eric, she said. You wanted to be a hero? You're the villain. And everyone's going to know it. Bye-bye. I played it again, then again. She was gone. The file was already wiped off the drive, but I had it saved on my phone. And in the background, I could hear something faint, a male voice. The system's in. The timing should hit tonight. We'll have enough by the time he's fired. I didn't recognize the voice, but I could guess where it came from. Because 2 days later, the superintendent's office called. Eric, we're being audited. There are discrepancies in your class grade submissions. Some of your students were given passing grades without meeting the minimum requirements. I didn't do that. We've checked the logs. The edits came from your account. Yesterday afternoon, around 4:30 p.m. My stomach dropped. I wasn't at school yesterday afternoon. I had a dentist appointment. We're going to have to investigate. I sat down. She hadn't just impersonated me in emails. She'd gone into the grade system and altered student records. She'd set me up to fall. This wasn't just an HR issue anymore. This was revenge. And I had just 5 days to prove I didn't do it before the audit locked the records and buried the evidence. 5 days, that's what they gave me. 5 days before the district auditors locked the grade records for the entire semester, and whatever Mindy had done would become permanent, irrefutable, etched into the system like a scar. 5 days to prove that I didn't hand out passing grades to students who hadn't earned them. I left the principal's office and walked straight to the parking lot, and my hands were shaking, but my mind was already running the math, Someone had accessed my account at 4:32 p.m. on a Tuesday. I had a dentist appointment at 3:00. Then my phone's calendar confirmed IT, and my dentist's office confirmed it. That part was easy. The hard part was proving that the account access came from a different device, a different IP address, a different person. I called Ray on the drive home. "You're not going to believe this." "I already heard," he said. "Patricia called me. She's furious. She knows you didn't do it." "Does the administration know?" "They're covering their bases. You know how it works. They have to investigate before they can exonerate. That takes time. I have 5 days." Ray was quiet for a moment. "What do you need?" "Access to the IT logs, the school's network records. I need to know what IP address made those grade changes. If it's not mine, I'm clear." "IT's run by a guy named Harris. He's new, but he's also a stickler for procedure. He won't give you logs without a formal request." "Then I need a formal request. I'll talk to Patricia. She can push it through." "Tonight?" "I'll do my best." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my apartment with a legal pad and wrote down everything I knew. Mindy was suspended for the parent complaint. She was escorted off campus 2 days ago. The grade changes happened yesterday afternoon. That meant she couldn't have physically been on campus when the edits were made, unless she'd pre-scheduled them, or unless someone else had helped her. The first possibility, remote access. If she'd set up a backdoor, she could have logged in from anywhere, but our school's IT system was locked down tight. Remote access required 2-factor authentication, and I hadn't received any unusual login notifications. The second possibility, an accomplice. Someone on the inside with legitimate access who'd used my credentials to make the changes. That someone would have had to know my password. I thought about who knew my password. The department computer had it saved. I'd used it in front of substitutes, student assistants, even a few colleagues who'd borrowed my machine for quick tasks. The list was longer than I wanted to admit. But there was one name that kept coming back. Mindy. She'd had access to the department computer. She'd seen me type in the password more than once. And she'd already demonstrated that she had no problem impersonating me. The question was, who helped her after she left? The next morning, I went to see Harris, the IT coordinator. He was a skinny guy in his late 20s, with thick glasses and the kind of defensive posture that came from years of being asked to fix printers. He was already setting up his coffee when I knocked. "Eric, I heard about the audit." "Everyone's heard about the audit. They're saying you might have." "I didn't do it." Harris nodded slowly. "I know. I checked the logs." My heart stopped. "You did." "Protocol. Any grade change flagged by the system gets logged. I pulled the records this morning." He pushed his glasses up. "The changes came from a device that wasn't yours." "Whose device?" "Unknown. It's a shared machine in the back of the library. No user login, just a public terminal. Anyone could have used it." "Exactly." He handed me a printed page. "The IP address matches that terminal. The timestamp is 4:32 p.m., but the terminal has no security camera coverage. The library's cameras are all pointed at the checkout desk." I stared at the paper. A dead end. "Can you tell if someone logged into that terminal with my account?" "No, the terminal uses a generic login. Once someone's on the machine, they can access any school application with their own credentials. Whoever used it would have had to type in your username and password." "Someone who knew my password." "You're the only one who should know that." I folded the paper and put it in my pocket. "Thanks, Harris." "Eric," he hesitated. "There's something else." "What?" "The terminal was used at 4:32, but it was also used at 3:15 that same day. Different account, different user. The log shows a guest login, but I cross-referenced the browsing history. Someone was looking up student grade records." "Whose account?" "The guest login doesn't show names, but I pulled the network records. The user logged in using a phone, personal device, connected to the school Wi-Fi. And that phone belongs to..." Harris shrugged. "I can't identify it without a subpoena, but I can tell you the device was on campus at 3:15. The Wi-Fi access point was near the library. So someone was in the library at 3:15, scouting, and then came back at 4:32 to make the changes." "That's what it looks like." I sat back. This was bigger than Mindy. Someone had physically been on campus, using a personal phone, checking the system before the actual edits were made. That required planning, coordination, and a level of access that went beyond a grudge. "Harris, can you pull the security footage from the hallway near the library? The camera at the entrance." "I can try, but the footage only stays in the system for 48 hours. After that, it gets overwritten." "When does that happen?" "Tonight at midnight." I looked at my watch. It was 9 a.m. I had 15 hours. I ran back to Patricia's office and laid it all out. "Someone used a library terminal to alter the grades," I said. "The same terminal was used earlier in the day by someone with a personal phone. I need the hallway footage before it gets wiped." Patricia picked up her phone. "I'll call security." "I need more than that, and I need whoever was in that library at 3:15. That's the key. They were checking something, probably the grade system, maybe my account. If they'd already accessed it, they'd have left a footprint." "Eric, you're talking about a full-scale investigation." "Mindy's already gone. Whoever did this is still here, and they're still on campus." Patricia was quiet. Then she dialed. The security office was a cramped room in the basement, filled with monitors and old filing cabinets. The head of security, a retired cop named Don, pulled up the footage for the library hallway. The time, 3:15 p.m. "I can't see the face yet," Don said, zooming in. "The camera angle is wide, but there's a figure, wearing a hoodie face down. Can't identify." "Can you track where they go after?" Don scrolled through frames. "They walk toward the back exit. The exit that leads to the parking lot. Can we see the parking lot camera? That's not connected to the system. The parking lot cameras are separate. I felt the frustration building. So we have a figure in a hoodie who walked to the parking lot, and that's it? Not quite. Don pointed to a frame. See that? The hoodie. There's a logo on the back. It's faded, but I can enhance it. He ran the footage through a filter. The logo became clearer. It was the mascot of a local community college, the same one Mindy's younger brother attended. I stared at the screen. Mindy's brother? I don't know, Don said, but the timing fits. He came to visit her last week. I remember because he asked for a visitor pass. Did he sign in? Yeah, I have the log. Don pulled out a binder. Here, Mark Hart, visitor, signed in at 2:30 p.m., signed out at 4:45 p.m. My head was spinning. Mark Hart, Mindy's brother. He'd been on campus at the exact time the library terminal was used. He'd left just before the grade changes were made at 4:32. But Mark didn't have access to my password. Mindy did, and she'd been in the department computer room multiple times before she left. The picture was starting to form. Mindy gave her brother the password. He used the library terminal to scout the system, then came back at 4:32 to make the actual changes. Maybe he was supposed to be the fall guy, or maybe he was just a pawn. I called Harris. Can you check if the grade changes were made by someone physically at the terminal or remotely? Locally, he said. The terminal was actively used at 4:32. Keystrokes, mouse clicks, the whole thing. So someone was sitting there. Yes. Can you tell if they were using a physical keyboard or a phone as a keyboard? Any kind of remote connection? No, it was a straight local session. I thanked him and hung up. Mark Hart was in the building at 4:32. He'd signed out at 4:45. He had the timing, the opportunity, and the family connection. But I still needed proof. That afternoon, I tracked down Mark Hart's social media that IT didn't take long. He was 21, studying at the community college, and his Instagram was filled with pictures of himself at parties, concerts, and conveniently a selfie taken outside our school parking lot, dated the day of the grade changes. The caption, asterisk helping my sister with a work thing. She's the best. Asterisk. I screenshotted. Then I screenshot the visitor log. Then I sent it all to Patricia. This is circumstantial, she said when she called back. It shows he was here, but it doesn't show he made the changes. I need you to request his phone records. If he was on school Wi-Fi at 3:15, that's a match. If he accessed the grade system through his phone, that's a match. Eric, that's going to take longer than 5 days. Then I'll use what I have. I'll go to the superintendent myself. No, her voice was firm. You go to the superintendent. You look desperate. You're a respected teacher. Let me handle it. She hung up before I could argue. The next 48 hours were torture. I went through my classes like a zombie, answering questions about the Great Gatsby while my mind was running loops. Every time the phone buzzed, I jumped. Every time a colleague looked at me sideways, I assumed they'd heard the rumors. And the rumors were spreading. By the end of day 2, I'd heard 3 different versions of the story. I'd been caught cheating grades. I was on the verge of termination. I'd resigned already. None of them were true, but all of them felt real enough to make the hallways feel hostile. On day 3, Patricia called me into her office. Her face was unreadable. The superintendent reviewed the evidence. Harris found something else. What? Phone records. Mark Hart's phone connected to the school Wi-Fi at 3:15 p.m. And at 4:32, his phone sent a text to Mindy. The text said, done. I let that sink in. So he was at the terminal making the changes and he texted her after. Exactly. Patricia smiled for the first time in days. The district is dropping the investigation. They're reopening the grade records. And they're formally filing charges against Mindy Hart for unauthorized computer access and fraud. What about Mark? He's an accessory. They'll handle it. I leaned back in my chair. It was over. But it wasn't really, because there was still the video, the one Mindy recorded in the department drive, the threat she left behind. And the voice in the background, I still didn't know who that belonged to. Patricia, there's one more thing. I played the video on my phone. She watched it, and her face went pale. Who is that voice? I don't know, but I need to find out. The investigation didn't end with Mindy's arrest. It opened a new chapter. Within a week, the district's legal team had subpoenaed Mindy's phone and laptop. They found the video, the email drafts, the scripts she'd written to frame other teachers. But they also found something else, a series of encrypted messages between Mindy and an unknown number, starting a month before she was suspended. The messages referenced Eric and the plan, but they also mentioned bonus payments and taking over the department. Mindy wasn't acting alone. She was working with someone who had skin in the game. And that someone was still in the building. That night, I sat in my apartment again, staring at the legal pad. I drew a timeline, Mindy's arrival, her rise, her fall, the framing, the accomplice. I wrote down every name in the department, every administrator, every person who had contact with her. One name kept appearing, Tom, the young, sweet, easily manipulated PE teacher, the one she'd charmed into doing her work, buying her coffee, running her errands. But Tom was too innocent. He'd been a victim, not a co-conspirator. Then there was Rafe. He'd been supportive, but he also had access to the department computer. He'd known about my password. And he'd been at the school late on the day of the grade changes, but his car was in the lot, and he'd been in his classroom the whole time. Alibi solid. There was Patricia, who'd been nothing but supportive. There was Harris, the IT guy who'd helped me. There was Dawn, the security head. And then there was the unknown, the voice in the video. It wasn't Mindy's brother. I'd listened to the video 10 times, and the voice was deeper, older, with a slight nasality that I couldn't place. It sounded like someone I knew, but I couldn't say who. On day 5, I got a text from an unknown number. Asterisk, you won, Eric. But this isn't over. Mindy's gone, but I'm still here. And I know where you live. Asterisk. I stared at the screen. My pulse was loud in my ears. I called the police. Then I called Patricia. And then I packed a bag and went to stay with Ray for the weekend because I didn't want to be alone in my apartment when whoever that was decided to keep their promise. The grade changes were resolved. The investigation was closed. But my life was still unraveling. And somewhere in the shadows, the real puppet master was still pulling strings.